Good evening, everyone. Today I'm going to compare the PHP and Node.js ecosystems, mainly because we have a lot of experience with both. My name is Bryan. I started here 4 years ago as a part-time backend developer. I saw like all the iterations we did on our development stack. So we switched our technology stack a lot in the previous years, and in that sense, we switched from PHP to Node.js, and we kept using PHP for some other applications. So I'd like to talk about our history and what stack we did use to get where we are today. So the first things first, like when I finished high school. I started at a little company just before Lively. That's where I worked in PHP 5.2 and 5.3. And we started off using the G framework. And slightly after that, we saw like that Laravel was the next big thing. It was a bit too early to say that it was going to be the next big thing, but it made a lot of sense at the time. So we started using that, and that was version 2 of Laravel. And soon after that, we already switched to version 3. And when I came here at Lively, we had an application, like the first main application that was built by Lively, like 4 years ago, was built in PHP 5.4 with Symfony, 2.8 at the time. And in the meantime, like after that first application, we built a couple of more applications also in this stack. So also using PHP and also using Symfony, but I used upgraded versions like PHP 5.5 and 5.6 and later versions of Symfony as well. And after that, we also started using Laravel, and that basically started at Laravel 5. I'm pretty sure that was Laravel 5. That's it. Like in 2014, so then we go back quite a lot in time. Like also when I think I was working here for a year or so. We had our first spin-off at Lively, and we were like, okay, at that time, like Node.js was all the hype and all the thing, and MongoDB and NoSQL, everything was awesome and everything was really fast. So we decided, like we were like trying to build a spin-off that was mainly about scraping websites and saving like things and letting people like bundle different. You could just provide like a URL in the system, and it would just scrape like metadata and bundle like, for example, 5 websites together, and you get a really nice like visual view of that bundle, and it was called bundling. So, the fact that we had to scrape like different pages and we didn't know how they were structured, so we were like, okay, NoSQL probably makes sense because it's NoSQL and it's not really that structured, right? So. That's when we first started with Node.js. That was version 0.10. It feels like a long time ago when it was really in its early years back then. When we had some experience with Node.js, one of our early customers like came to Lively. It was at the time was a potential customer, and he said like, okay, I really want an application that's built on Meteor, because Meteor was the whole. It had like the whole real-time thing in there, so that it was built fully around WebSockets, and it was reactive in the sense that if you make, for example, a chat and you have an entity or a message, when you add it to the database, it was automatically like published to the other client, and then you like have a chat really easy. So that's when we started using Meteor, and I think. We used Meteor for a couple of applications, 2 or 3, but we had some problems with Meteor. Was like it was hard to build because you have to like build the whole thing, and then the builds kept crashing like in our build pipelines, and on the other side we had some applications that didn't need the whole real-time thing. So then we figured it was pretty hard to get rid of the real-time stuff. So it's very opinionated into being real-time, but if you don't need it, then it gives more you have to work around other things and didn't make that much sense. So that was actually when we moved back to Node.js, and we started with using Node.js still with MongoDB. Meteor also uses MongoDB, by the way. And later, like today, we are using a stack that's based on Node.js but uses PostgreSQL instead of MongoDB, because the whole relational thing really helps in the end. I saw probably like a lot of the major versions that came out of both in the last 4, 5, 6 years. So I think, okay, it might be nice for a PHP meetup to see like we have the experience with Node.js and running it in production, and we have the experience with PHP applications running that in production. So how do they compare, and why should you choose the one or the other? So let's take a look at both the Node.js ecosystem and the PHP ecosystems. I've got a couple of points that I'm going to like check talk about a couple of topics. The first one is architecture. That's basically like how the underlying system works. And if you look at Node.js, Node.js is basically a single-threaded runtime application, and it uses an event loop to handle all the incoming requests, and it does it does it in a way that like every I/O operation is done in an asynchronous way. It is like offloaded to kernel threads of the system, and it's basically like if you have two clients that are connecting, and you say like, okay, I want to get a set of users from the database, then it waits for that, or it actually doesn't wait for that event to happen, and it can handle like the other customer, and that probably also needs like a lot of data from the database, or from Redis or whatever. It can be anything that is I/O heavy, and this works out because like most web applications are pretty I/O heavy. So in that sense, it provides a good performance for using that. One of the bad things of using a single-threaded application is when you're going to do CPU-intensive tasks, because those aren't async, and you're actually like blocking everyone, because it's a single thread, single process that doing some really large computation like blocks everyone, and you shouldn't be doing that in Node. But you probably shouldn't be doing that in PHP either. So then there is like the underlying JIT compiler, the V8 engine, which is used in Google Chrome, that powers the JavaScript, like the Node.js runtime, and that is like really optimized, right? It exists for a pretty long time, and it's really performant nowadays. That was a good point in that sense. Then there's this little thing, like if you are having like one process, if you have some kind of unhandled exception, that basically means that it is going to crash your whole process, and it basically means like everyone who was in a part of that event loop, doing some post request, or it can be anything, of course. That will just like crash and stop all things. So you really have to worry about making sure that processes don't crash, like the main process doesn't crash, and you have to handle every exception in that sense. So that's a pretty important thing for Node.js. Then we have PHP, of course. PHP uses mostly FPM, so it uses a process pool that is managed. So every request just get like routed to one of the processes in the pool. It doesn't have like the event loop that Node.js has. So if you're doing a call to the database, that is inherently synchronous, and your code will look synchronous as well. But then, if you compare it to Node.js, then you have like the main point that if one of the processes like has an unhandled exception, in PHP, that is only that process, right? So all the other processes that are handling incoming requests, won't have much of a problem like finishing that request, because they don't even notice that the other process crashed. And the main downside of this is that, like, for each request you have to like bootstrap the whole application and make all the connections to the database and stuff like that. And for a node process, it's like it starts, you start it makes all the connections, and then it starts handling incoming requests. So all these connections are already made before it starts handling requests. And in PHP it has to be done like on every request you do to the website. So to give you like an overview of all the topics, in this sense, if you look at it from an architecture perspective, then Node.js is like the better, faster kind of solution, mainly because it does the I/O operations in a asynchronous way. But of course, you have to look at like making sure that the exceptions are handled correctly and stuff like that. So that's why I thought Node.js wins the first round. That's mainly because of the performance. So the second point is development. So this is more about how is your like development life as a developer using either Node.js or PHP. One thing that we figured, like a lot of the front-end applications these days, because we built a single-page application, which basically means like our whole front-end is a big JavaScript thing. So it made a lot of sense for us to also have like the backend written in the same language, so that it, front-enders can do backend work more easily, and backenders can do front-end work more easily, or fixes in that sense. So yeah, that's probably a good thing. A bad thing is that these days, like most of the time, you have to like compile JavaScript to some kind of earlier version of JavaScript to make sure that everything works okay. And also, like, there's Typescript that is like a superset of JavaScript that contains more typings and stuff like that, and it also needs to build. So if you make a change in your code, then you can you can't immediately like refresh your page and see the result, right? Because you have to wait for that to finish. Of course, it doesn't take too long, but for PHP it's just like, okay, I changed it, refresh, and it works, So that's then of course there are, for the Node.js ecosystem, there aren't like the all-in-one frameworks, what I'm calling it right now. Basically like Laravel, Symfony, and you probably know them all by heart. But for Node.js there are like, mainly what Laravel does is it combines a lot of packages, it builds some components itself. But yeah, like we only have those packages and not like the big thing that combines all those things into some kind of really nice API that is the same across the board. We have to use different packages that have weird or different APIs, or basically because they are written for a previous version of JavaScript, and then they didn't have some kind of special features that can be used today, and then you have to use that. So basically. So there are a lot of packages, definitely. There are coming out more packages for Node.js each day or for NPM each day than for PHP. That is a bit of a, because it's not only for Node.js, of course, it's also for the browser. So that probably is a thing. If you look at PHP, of course, well, the counterpart is that you have like the great frameworks that help you create applications faster, like Laravel and Symfony and you name it. It's relatively easy to set up local development environments. I spoke to a few people here, and like everyone is using Laravel. So I'm wondering, who is using Laravel here right now? Okay. And other people are using Symfony, or? Okay, a lot of Symfony as well. Okay. I'm not sure whether there is something like Laravel Homestead for Symfony, or what do you use for your local development environment in Symfony? Vagrant. Yeah, okay. Oh, okay, nice. Oh. So we had development. Okay, so it was very easy, to set up a local development environment in PHP. You were instantly able to test every code change because PHP is awesome, right? There are a lot of packages that integrate directly with set frameworks. So from Laravel 5.5, it's like a breeze, to install some kind of package because it automatically does the discovery and what else. In the Node.js environment, that's you have to read the README, how do you integrate it, and then you have to figure out how to integrate it in your own application, and it's just harder, which makes installation a breeze. I was talking just about the amount of packages that are getting created in the module kind of package managers. So you have npm for Node and you have packages for PHP. But what I just said, I just figured while giving the presentation that npm of course also contains every browser module out there. So I'm not sure how this relates to Node.js. Because it's a combination of browser and Node.js packages, and I think most of because the whole PHP community also probably uses npm, right, for their front end build. So there is probably a lot of those packages are related to the front end and not really to Node.js.
Good or bad?
Yeah.
I mean, there are many packages to pick from it.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. It can be hard, yeah, and there are also a lot of packages that are older and don't aren't really updated and stuff like that. So yeah, it can be pretty tedious to find out which package you need to use. So who won? Yay! Okay. So the third part is about DevOps. That's more about how you deploy your application and stuff like that. So for Node.js, there are obviously less hosting solutions. PHP exists for years and years, so there are many you get some kind of FTP and you can just deploy it there, or take for example Laravel Forge, which makes it really easy for you. You have those kind of things for Node, but they're either really expensive or it just doesn't isn't that great as it is in the PHP world. It requires the building of the code, of course. In PHP, basically what you probably should do is run test and get all your vendor dependencies. But we have to build the whole code, and it can take from a minute to more minutes, depending on how many packages you have, right? So
install.
Yeah, and of course you need to watch that main process, which I said earlier. You have to monitor that, and of course there are things we use Docker for that, and nowadays we're starting to use Kubernetes. But there are a lot of solutions to do that. But in PHP, FPM manages everything of that, and even if you do some kind of hosted solution, you just drop in your code and it works, right? So I basically summed up this already, comparing it to Node. Drives down price because there's a lot of competition. Extensions can be a bit of a problem. I'm not sure how many people had these problems, but I had some problems with different providers not having the right extensions or having the right PHP version. So that is a bit of a thing, but there are better solutions out there these days that make sure that you don't have these problems. So Oh. Okay, so the fourth is the last one. That's more about the language. So the JavaScript ecosystem iterates really fast. We've seen a lot of development, not only in JavaScript itself, but we also have seen Typescript, which is getting adopted really quick. A lot of packages these days are written in Typescript. And have the whole typing support that TypeScript has. Of course, JavaScript a few years ago was worse than PHP, but nowadays JavaScript itself is getting pretty close, but it's not really there. But I'll get to the features of PHP soon. It evolved a lot with all the ECMAScript additions over the past years. But for us today, TypeScript saves the day. It's fully typed. It really helps maintain like a larger code base and spot all the you gave the wrong parameters, stuff kind of things like that really early, and it even has generics, and so it has like the whole OOP kind of like almost like Java. It has like all the everything you need to make a maintainable large code base. PHP, it iterates slower, but that also means that it's like easier to keep up, right? It has way better support for reflection, and that is something that really bothers me, that JavaScript doesn't have like the first class built-in reflection that you like want to, For example, Laravel's dependency injection uses reflection, and that is like to make something like that in JavaScript and Typescript. I think it's possible, but you have to do like really weird stuff to get there because there is no good reflection API. Magic methods can be used in a creative way. We've seen it with Laravel.
Pro or con?
Yeah, okay, I figured it's a bad thing, but this is probably a bad thing, but there are probably maybe better cases where they are. No? Okay.
Maybe.
Okay.
It's bad.
Maybe.
It's lovely. It's great.
Yeah.
It's there.
Yeah, this one, of course, like the standard library of PHP is really inconsistent.
It is a lie. PHP is consistently inconsistent.
That's true. Then you have like the whole array underscore star and the string dot star families. It's just weird. I mean, if I go back from Node.js to PHP, it's just weird. I can't make anything better of that. Anonymous functions have like if you compare it, I will show you an example soon, but you have like to use the use statement, and there isn't yet like a shorthand version of an anonymous function, right? I don't know if there is a RFC for that, but probably, and it will probably get rejected. Okay, so this is an example of just take it that there's a hello function that does something. It takes a user and it returns like a hello message for the user. But if you write this in JavaScript, then you can use like the shorthand. That's what I meant by the shorthand anonymous function notation. And you never have to use like you can provide like accolades and do it on a new line, but you never have to say like, okay, I want to use the message variable, and please take it for me in the scope of this function, right?
Never was.
And this is the example, about the weird like function. The main thing here is that like in a lot of languages, the primitives like the scalars have their own methods, right? But in PHP, you can't call like a function on a scalar, and then you get this kind of weird stuff to you have to nest all the functions. While in JavaScript, it's just like, okay, everyone can read this, right? It's just map, reverse, join, and then you're done. So.
Isn't that why Laravel has collections?
Yeah, that's true. I actually wrote it down, but I forgot to say it. But yeah, Laravel has like the collecting, and then but it's sort of a fix, right, for something that should be really be done on lower level.
Well, that's also something that's been discussed before. Yeah, a lot.
Oh. Oh, okay. So yeah, that's the fourth one, and JavaScript ecosystem definitely wants that one. I'm going to make it even worse because there's no fifth part. So just to give you an overview, why we switched to Node.js instead of using like PHP, and why you probably shouldn't switch to Node.js, because I'm not going to say like, oh, everyone should switch to Node.js. No, you shouldn't, probably. Why we made the switch is, what I said, because in 2014 it was all the hype, and yes, we were all young developers, we wanted to use Node.js, and it did sort of make sense to build bundling in that, because like the whole MongoDB NoSQL stuff, we created bundling in that and just MongoDB NoSQL. And what I said, one of our early customers requested we use Meteor, so we came into the flow of Node.js, right? We kind of like moved there, And it made a lot of sense for us to just stay there instead of switching back to PHP again. Yeah, and the client and server are written in the same language. Okay, so why shouldn't you switch to Node.js? Yeah, this is basically a thing, like everyone is talking about, okay, Node.js is performant, but when you look at how you write performant code, it makes so much more, you know, the backend developer basically dictates how the performance of the application is going to be. If he writes like really bad code, then Node.js isn't going to save you, right? It's not like that.
PHP does.
PHP does, yeah.
You write terrible code.
Yeah. Okay, yeah. So basically, it's like Node.js is not magically going to make your applications fast, right? You still have to write fast code, and if you write fast code in or well-thought code in PHP, then it will also be fast. So depending, like only if you're building like a really large application with a lot of like concurrent users and stuff, then maybe it does make sense from a performance point of view to use Node.js. But yeah, I think most of us aren't like in that scale that we should be worrying about that. The PHP ecosystem had great frameworks, of course, Laravel, Symfony, you name it. That really helps. I would say I really miss that now in the Node.js because we kind of built like our own mini framework that's slightly increasing, but it shouldn't be like this big, you know, kind of garbage framework. So we slightly moving pieces into there. But yeah, it costs a lot of time and a lot of work to do all that. So.
But you have left that.
Huh?
That's something that had to happen.
Yeah, so Symfony. Also, of course, WordPress and the likes. We have Ghost, which is becoming more popular, but we don't have that much like, WordPress kind of things or whatever. Matthijs is also building his great open source thing in Laravel, so we don't have that either. And it's, PHP of course is easier to deploy, and there's more like focus on the actual business logic that you want to implement and create your application, and not like all the fuss around that you have to worry about. For us, of course, I mean, if I say it like this, it probably doesn't make sense that we are still using Node.js, but we went through all those stages, right? So we went through all those things that are, and now we have like a boilerplate, which is kind of a Laravel app, but then in Node.js, which has like a lot of things that we need for our applications. The conclusion is that we settled with Node.js and our custom framework, which we probably hope we will be open sourcing someday. But PHP would be a really viable option as well. And we use PHP for some small like projects and things that we run, mainly because like if you build an application on Laravel now, I'm pretty sure that when I'm going to get back to that in like a year or 2 years, then it won't be like that of a big mess to upgrade it, you know, and to get it up and running with the latest versions. If I'm looking at a Node.js application that we built like a year and a half ago, then there is like a lot of things that I think, oh, this is done better now, you know, and this is done better now, and then you end up like getting that whole thing with all the new updates. So yeah, always use the right language for the right situation. And that was my presentation, and thank you. Questions or?
I have a question. It's about when you compare Node.js and PHP, you describe 4 factors, but I'm missing one that I want to put on the table. It's debugging. Debugging. When you debug.
The debugging.
Great debugs.
Yes. True. There is like Visual Studio Code is like the main editor for going with JavaScript and TypeScript, and it has like the whole debugging thing. You can put breakpoints and stuff like that. Also TypeScript, because it's so heavily typed, finds in compilation finds like a lot of things that are going or can go wrong. So it won't compile, you know, if it notes that anything is wrong. So that really helps. I would say that it's easier to Yeah, it's easier to debug TypeScript applications than PHP applications.
Who uses in PHP a stat debugger that they actually put
Yeah,
in
You don't use that.
Oh, you didn't raise your hands? Please. Yeah, it's a good theme for next
Did I? Yes.
I had a slight impression that it wasn't a very fair comparison because you're comparing a language with not something, it's not a language, you're comparing with JavaScript, you're comparing with Node. So for example, PHP has React PHP, which is a library, and we can develop applications that has asynchronous input output. It implements an event loop, so it works more or less the same.
True. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Swool is a new PHP extension as well that does this like pretty well, actually.
That's scale?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then
I mean, it is long-running PHP, so I mean, do what you want with that.
But yeah, there are solutions like to get it to like closer together. But comparing like Node.js and PHP isn't like a weird thing because PHP is built like to serve web applications, right? And Node.js is like the backend thing, and it's also built to serve web applications. So you can achieve like the what you call the how do you call it? React PHP. I saw there are a couple of them, right? That there are a couple of them that do something like that, right?
Yeah.
But you know it.
Yeah, it's a React PHP, ICP, I think.
AmPHP.
Yeah, and Swool.
Okay.
And that.
Yeah, I
Where was the name?
Swool.
I have to say I don't have that much experience with that. The only thing that I know is that Node.js is like built from the core to be like that, and I'm not sure how PHP or whether or not it's able to like achieve the same result on all scales. But it probably does work, you know, and it can probably work very good. But I don't know that specific part.
Sorry, we'll have someone help you find it. But I think it's fair to a point that Node.js and PHP are essentially platforms on that level. So you can end up comparing them, but I mean it's always going to be the same thing, right? Comparisons are never fair, whatever you compare, right? I actually had one question about the different topics you were looking at, the 4 items. I would look at a 5th, which would not be debugging, it would actually be testing.
Yeah, I have a 6th also.
All of us test, right?
Then what's your point? What's your point? That they both have excellent testing framework.
Yeah, is there anything different in that you observed for that purpose?
But one question, is there a good for Node.js for testing?
Just excellent.
It's a bit slow compared to Jasmine.
But for mocking as well, it's good for mocking as well. And you can create more stuff.
Yeah.
To test more.
Yeah, we are not really at the stage that we like heavily test our applications. So that's really one thing we are working to. The main point there is that if you take, for example, Laravel or Symfony, then there is like the whole IOC container and the whole dependency injection is there to like build applications that are fully testable. And yeah, we are like in a phase where we're like heavily using that right now. But we should start testing it more. But yeah, there are like frameworks. But then again, you have like Laravel, for example, gives you a lot of like testing, some kind of testing suite, you know, which lets you easily test it. And that's something that is of course also missing, like in the Node.js. You have things like that, but you always have to integrate it in your own application, right? And,
So what about real-time data in applications?
so what about real-time data and applications?
Would you then go for the newer PHP frameworks that do like the continuous looping or the streaming in PHP, or would you still stick with Node then? Because it was one of the reasons why, you know, in early projects when like 5 years ago, building a chat application was quite a hassle. Like a scaling chat application was quite a hassle in PHP.
Yeah. I don't think it's that much of a problem these days because you have like the whole there's like a whole publishing subscribing framework in Laravel right now that uses Socket.io, I think. So yeah, that should definitely be possible to do as well. It's more that like Meteor, heavily uses like the whole WebSocket thing, and it has like the protocol to communicate all the entities and stuff like that. So yeah, but I won't say that PHP is not able to do that, or is able to do it, but in a worse way or anything. No, I think they're pretty equal to that extent. Yeah.
About hiring, that's also for your
Yes.
company really important. If you
Yes.
want to make money,
Yes.
is it better
Yeah.
to hire?
That was the sixth point that I was talking about. Yeah, hiring wise, it's what you notice is like there are quite a different group of people that join our team from a more like a Node.js kind of background, and I hate to say it, but I still get the feeling that youngsters have this feeling like, oh, PHP isn't like, isn't as cool as, for example, Node.js, and I honestly don't like to say that because I really think that PHP and the whole ecosystem is a really good thing, and especially a good thing to start, because you have all like the great frameworks that let you actually build something without having to know all the different things. So yeah,
that's a good thing that because young people are cheaper than people that are older. So for a company it's better to then hire.
That's probably
that's
true.
just
Yeah,
simple.
but
That's the way it works.
hiring is one of the reasons that we are still using Node.js. Yes. Yeah. Also, like we have a couple of people here that are from the Amsterdam, the HVA, like from CMD, and they get JavaScript also. They don't do PHP anymore. They do JavaScript mainly. Yeah, and then we have like the whole thing that you can be a front-ender and you can be a back-ender, and especially when you're young and you're still finding out, it's rather easy to, come here and find your way into what you like, because, yeah, you can shift to the back-end as easily as you can shift to the front-end.
Can I maybe
Okay.
make a small
Yes.
little, addition to this as well? That I think in the kind of backgrounds that PHP developers have versus the backgrounds that the most JavaScript developers have is that they have the JavaScript developers have usually more of a focus on product and user experience as well. And this is one of the main key points that we prize in the applications and products that we build. And of course, the backend is good and it performs and it's all amazing code, but it's really the front-end experience that is driving is one of the unique selling points of our product. So that's also a big part of when we stick to the JavaScript JavaScript community as well, because there's a lot of people also doing a lot of React and like really front-end heavy stuff and creating really beautiful interfaces that seem to come more from the JavaScript world than from the PHP world.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Can I borrow your laptop?
Yeah, sure.